So how do you go from that one buy it with the hard money and every fee in the book and have the contractor and then have the tenant? What was the next phase for you?
Yeah. So I inherited $100 million from my grandfather. No, I'm kidding. Didn't do that. That would have been awesome, but didn't happen. It was one foot in front of the other.
And you lost 99 million.
Yeah, exactly. And lost most of it. No, didn't inherit anything. One foot in front of the other for the last 10 years. I mean, there's no huge breakthroughs along the way, other than I think making the transition from single family to multifamily. That was a pretty big breakthrough. Okay. Kind of getting the idea of instead of doing a $150,000 transaction, doing a $15 million transaction. Okay. That was a game changer to kind of wrap my head around that. But it was the first.
How many transactions in between that first one to where you were? I'm not going to say where it was in your comfort zone, because I'm sure it was out of your comfort zone. Absolutely. But you still had the ability to pull it together. What did that time horizon and summary deals in between there look like?
Yeah, I was so first house, I'm hooked. I'm like, I don't care what it takes, this is going to happen. And I think that's an important thing for any aspiring entrepreneur to hear. It seems to me that the common denominator of successful entrepreneurs is they jumped and they put it all on the table. And there must have been 1,000 situations in the first couple of years where it would have been logical and certainly easier to just throw in the towel. But I kind of made this commitment day one. I was like, this is it. This is going to be it. I remember telling my wife when we were doing Dave Ramsey and literally eating beans and rice, I was like, we're going to be wealthy. I'm going to figure it out. And it even sounded stupid saying, but I was like, I'm committed to this.
Yes.
So that's kind of all that matters. The only thing that matters is that I'm committed to it. There's lots I don't know, but I know I'm committed to it from the very first house. So for one house, and then it started repeating what was working. I was talking to a young guy last night at a meetup event, and he's asking for some advice. I'm like, it sounds like you got something that's working, man. You're asking me about these 10 other things. Yeah. Do more. You already got some success in this piece you're telling me about. Go do that a lot more and build up some capital and some experience. And so that's what I did. I just had this house thing that worked and didn't require, required a lot of capital, but it was mostly other people's capital, hard money. So I started doing more houses, and my first goal was, let me replace my income. This is kind of right out of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The definition of wealth is your monthly bills covered by passive income. And that to me, I was like, that's it. That is it. And so that's what I worked on. It took me 2.5 years to do that, of absolutely burning the candle at both ends. So married, 2 kids, 3 kids, full-time job, wake up in the morning, drive over to the work site, check in, go to work, lunchtime, leave work, go sign a closing at Starbucks with the escrow officer to come meet me out, go back to work till 5 or 6, 6 o'clock, go back to another job site, check on some stuff every day for 2.5 years. Right. And so, but again, I was committed. So it just didn't matter. Right. Yeah. It was I didn't care what it took, to do that. So over that time, did a lot of houses. And the portfolio that got me over 2.5 years of burning the candle at both ends to that kind of liftoff point, which I would call cash flow equals bills, or monthly cash flow covers bills, was like 22 doors. There was a 6-unit multifamily and then a handful of single family rentals that were all renovated, refinanced, and rented, producing good cash flow. And that was all kind of dotted throughout San Antonio. And so at that point, the plan was, okay, I've got a good 6-figure job. I could, if I had gotten 1 or 2 more promotions, I would not be an entrepreneur, because I was kind of right there at that comfort level of, but man, I got a family and all this, but I knew I had to build this entrepreneurial thing, because 1 more promotion in life would have just been too good. Why risk it? So I feel like I kind of, don't say dodged a bullet. There's honor in work. I don't belittle anyone that works or chooses a career. Great, but that's what it was for me. So I got to the passive income to cover my bills. And then I turned in my resignation under the thesis that, gosh, if I've been able to build this thing absolutely in my spare time. I obsess about it at night after family goes to sleep. I obsess about it 24/7. I listen to podcasts, and then I'm out there doing the work. I'm buying stuff. I'm transacting. I'm overseeing renovations. I'm doing the work. And this is all kind of with a full-time job. So I thought, if I, and now I've built up some net worth. Holy moly. I built up way more net worth than what I'm making at work. It would take me years to do this. So I was starting to see the picture, cash flow, net worth. And I just thought, if I had all my time and energy to focus on this, I bet big things could happen. So after 2.5 years, submitted my resignation and went full-time into it. And that was also kind of the time that coincided with getting into multifamily. So I'd done that 6-unit deal, no partners, just me and the bank. I wanted to test out this multifamily thing, but I had been learning multifamily from some guys that were older, further along, and better capitalized than me. So I'd been following along and taking notes during these 2.5 years where I wanted to go to multifamily. Takes money and I didn't have it. And it takes experience and it takes confidence to raise capital, which my confidence to raise capital only came through a tremendous amount of repetitions, borrowing money from people, 100 or 200,000 at a time on a house, executing, returning it. Okay, that went well. All right, that person trusted me. Okay, another one, borrow it, execute, return capital, and upside. Okay, that went well. And doing that like literally dozens of times before my first multifamily syndication, where I partnered with some people, raise $1 million in one shot. I mean, it took me years and a lot of repetitions to be okay with me taking somebody else's money into a deal, I guess is what it took.
And then that other money leading up to this point, did you get away from the hard money and do more of what I would call like the private money, the friends and family? So you're used to paying back and you're comfortable and you're hitting these singles and doubles. Is that what that evolution looked like for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think my first 6 or 8 single family deals, I mean, from the very first one, next one, were all hard money. And hard money is great, right? I mean, it's access to capital. And if you don't have access to capital, real estate's very capital intensive. If you don't have access to capital, you're not doing real estate. So you need something. But I was doing a presentation at a meeting, at, real estate meetup, on all these houses I'd done, showing numbers. And a gentleman comes up and says, "Hey, looks like you know what you're doing. And I got some money I'd put in a first lien against these and do it a little bit cheaper than that and probably be a little easier to work with." And so I couldn't believe it. This guy's going to give me $100,000. Yeah, now he's giving it to me papered up with a first lien, but it still felt like this guy's going to give me $100,000. Like, holy moly. And that was a huge, light bulb for me, because we went on to do millions and tens of millions of dollars of transactions, 100, 250 at a time on these houses. So it was a transition to private lending. And that was my first investor. And after I'd kind of done some stuff with him, I put a deck together on my track record, my growing track record, and I showed it to somebody else that I thought, this guy's interested. Maybe this other person interested. Well, sure enough, they wanted to do a deal. So now I had 2 investors. And it literally, I mean, that's how it started. One investor worked out. I kind of built my confidence. Let's see if I could get somebody else to potentially be interested in this. Yep. And then pretty soon it's 3, and then 4. And then, a few years later, it's a multifamily deal where it's a couple $2.5 million equity raise. I'm in a partnership with 2 other people. I'm going to bring $1 million. Maybe there's 10 people now that want to do it. And that's just how it gone very organically since then to today, just one foot in front of the other.